So do you consider yourself a Muslim American?
So yes, and why do I do that?
I don't know if you know him, Nick Fuentes. I wanted to know your thoughts on him. Okay.
Nick is directly anti-Semitic.
You were at Politicon in 2018, and Charlie Kirk was there, and a viral clip went out of you guys having an altercation of some kind. How do you feel about the recent news, and do you think could this potentially be a foreign attack on a U.S. citizen by another government?
And they're an enemy of America. America's about equality and justice and truth and freedom, and they're trying to take our freedom away from us. You're not allowed to say anything against Israel. You must bow your head to a foreign government. There's the only way we win is when the right and the left unite against the establishment.
So how does that process kind of take place when things seem so polarized in our politics? How do we kind of come together as a country, as Americans? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to another episode, a small episode of UnityCast, and I'm here with Mr. Cenk Uygur. Cenk, thank you so much for giving us the time.
Thank you, brother.
Welcome back to another episode of UnityCast. We are here at the CARE fundraising dinner. Now, Cenk, I just want to get right into it. You were at Politicon in 2018, and Charlie Kirk was there, and a viral clip went out of you guys having an altercation of some kind. I just wanted to ask, how did you feel about the news with Charlie Kirk happening recently with his assassination? How do you feel about the recent news, and do you think the media is twisting the truth about what really happened? And could this potentially be a foreign attack on a U.S. citizen by another government?
Yeah, so first of all, Charlie and I knew each other from a couple of interactions. It started on Politicon. We wound up interviewing him at the RNC and DNC. Then I'm the only one on the left he invited to America Fest, and we had an interaction there. So Charlie was not very inclusive in his speech, but he was very inclusive in his actions. So it was kind of an interesting, different paradigm. And I appreciated that he included folks when he spoke, because at least it gave the other side an opportunity. And we wound up agreeing on some important things. Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of who killed him, look, I don't know. I don't have enough evidence in either direction. For the folks who say, well, you have to believe whatever the government says, no, I don't have to believe it. Right. And the government has not shown that it is trustworthy. Of course. So Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Jeffrey Epstein, for example, very unlikely worked on his own. And so there are nefarious forces that are working in this country. So is it one of them that killed Charlie? I have no idea. But I don't trust the government.
Okay. When you say nefarious forces, is there like any names that come to mind particularly?
Not in that particular case. I mean, it's not for me to judge because we just don't have enough evidence.
Okay.
Right?
I see.
But yeah, I mean, look, whenever there's engraved bullets, it's already suspicious.
Right.
That's like, oh, yes, I will tell you who was doing this. It's not usually how people act. It's one shot. Randos who do shootings almost never take one shot.
Of course, yeah.
It looks like a super professional operation, but somehow he disassembles the rifle on the roof and he reassembles it in the woods and leaves it for the authorities to find.
Right.
And the texts are super convenient. I am the one who did this, no one else.
Exactly.
I really wanted my rifle. I don't know why I left it in the woods. So, look, there are things that people are questioning.
Yep.
So, but do I have the answers? I don't.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to AIPAC, I just wanted to ask, what do you think the percentage of our government officials or media and journalists might be under Zionist influence or control? And do you think that's a threat to national security?
Yeah, of course it is. So first off, about 90% of Congress takes money from AIPAC and other Israeli lobbies. So the mainstream media says, no, you have to actively bury that fact. And if anyone says that fact, you should try to ruin their careers by calling them anti-Semites. Well, that's a weird thing to do. It is a fact.
Right.
So I thought reporters were in the fact business, right? And is it also a fact that that same 90% votes with Israel every single time? Yes, that's a fact.
Yep.
And so if they can disprove that fact, great, no problem. But don't tell me that facts are anti-Semitic.
Of course.
That's not a thing, right? That's you making an excuse to protect a foreign government. So now that's the politicians working for a foreign government. And by the way, they work for a lot of people. They work for Big Pharma, Big Oil. Look, let's be honest, 90% of our politicians are, there's a lot of impolite and a lot of some polite ways of saying. They would call them working ladies, and now they're working ladies and gentlemen. Okay,
yeah,
they work at night behind the scenes doing nefarious things. All right, anyways, and then our media covers for them 100%. So I mean, not a single cable news anchor has called it a genocide. Why? Almost every genocide scholar has called it a genocide. Every human rights group has called it a genocide. Why won't cable news anchors call it a genocide?
Interesting coincidence.
Yeah, because they're deeply, deeply, deeply biased in favor of Israel. In fact, they do their dirty work for them all the time. If anybody actually has a very legitimate criticism of Israel, they say, no, that is not a criticism of Israel. You hate Jewish people. Well, nobody said that. You're the only people saying that. And it's weird that you keep insisting that everyone hates Jewish people when no one said Jewish people.
Right.
So it's obvious that they have an agenda, and their agenda is massively pro-Israel. And by the way, they're deeply racist against Palestinians, and they're deeply bigoted against Muslims.
100%.
So they say, oh my God, there was somebody said something wrong on a college campus. Let's do congressional hearings about anti-Semitism. Are you kidding me? How many times have people said on a college campus something that's anti-Muslim? 1 billion? 2 billion? 10 billion? Where's our congressional hearings? How about all of you in the press that are anti-Muslim? And so when Hamas kills over 800 civilians, you say they're the worst terrorists in the world? Fine. Okay, now Israel kills 66,000, 20,000 children, and you say they're not terrorists. Well, that doesn't make any sense. So you're lying. You're lying on behalf of Israel, and you're doing it because you're a racist who thinks that Palestinian children's lives are not anywhere near the lives of Israeli children. Well, if that's not racism, I don't know what is.
Right. Speaking of this kind of split in U.S. politics, you do believe that there should be a common bridge to kind of tackle this issue between, as you are on the left, and between Republicans and Congress, and you think there should be that bridge. I wanted to ask on that. There's this very popular, I don't know if you know him, Nick Fuentes. He's a very popular influencer who's risen up. I wanted to know your thoughts on him.
Yeah, no, I'm not in favor of Nick. Nick is directly anti-Semitic. And so I don't, first of all, it's wrong. Second of all, it doesn't help our cause. So our cause is not with a religion. You see Jewish Voices for Peace here. You see a lot of wonderful Jewish Americans fighting the good fight on our side. And look they're so worried about New York, the AIPAC and the Israeli lobby. Why are they worried about New York? Not just because MAMDANI, a Muslim American, is likely to win. They're worried to death that younger Jewish Americans are all voting for MAMDANI. So now they're like, no. You must bow your head to Israel. And younger Jewish Americans are saying, no, I'm not going to bow my head to Israel. I'm an American. I'm a New Yorker. I'm voting for New York. I'm voting for America. I'm voting for peace, and I'm voting for humanity. So this isn't about religion, okay? On the other hand, when you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tom Massey, Tucker Carlson, etc., coming over to our side and going, we're sorry, you were right. You were right. Muslims are human. I don't know what we were saying, pushing for the Iraq war, etc. And we think we got hoodwinked. We think we got tricked into hating Muslims by the Israeli lobby. Okay, the Candace Owens said that, right? Well, I will take that yes for an answer. Yes. And they say, why are we paying for Israel? Makes sense. We've cut funding to every other nation. Only Israel and their two allies, Egypt and Jordan, continue funding only because Israel said so. Okay. So don't tell me that Israel doesn't have extra power when they're literally the only other foreign country that's being funded. Well, this is obvious what's going on. Everyone who doesn't say that Israel has disproportionate power is lying on behalf of Israel, whether they're in media or in politics. So in media, when we get rare politicians like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tom Massey who come to our side on this issue, yes for an answer. Yes, Tucker Carlson, yes for an answer. So I'm relieved to have our right-wing brothers and sisters join the cavalry, right? And by the way, there's no way in the world we're going to win on our own. Right. There's the only way we win is when the right and the left unite against the establishment.
As a common country, yes.
That's right.
So how does that process kind of take place when things seem so polarized in our politics, where if somebody has a different view, we need to cancel them and do this and do that? How do we kind of come together as a country, as Americans?
Yeah, so no one has been canceled more than Muslim Americans, and no one does more canceling than the Israeli lobby, right? So they look for everyone. Now they're targeting average Americans that might show sympathy to Palestinians or Muslims in social media. This is a thing we reported on in the Young Turks. And and they're trying to get every American fired who would ever dare to raise their head to Israel. Not only do you have to bow your head to Israel, but if you show sympathy towards Muslims, you should be fired because you hate Jews, they say. No, you hate Muslims. Everyone in that Israeli lobby is a deep bigot, a deep racist, okay? They are racist of racists. And I'm so glad that we have African Americans and Latinos on our side, and that's driving them crazy. And now we have white, right-wing Christian brothers on our side. So now we have a massive coalition, and that is why Israel's panicking. No, you all have to bow. You all have to bow to Israel. And then you go, well, I don't want to bow to Israel. They go, oh, you're an anti-Semite. No. You're a bigot. All of those Israeli lobbyists are the biggest bigots in the country, and they're an enemy of America. America's about equality and justice and truth and freedom, and they're trying to take our freedom away from us. You're not allowed to say anything against Israel. You must bow your head to a foreign government. No, I'm an American. I don't bow to anyone.
So do you consider yourself a Muslim American?
So yes, and why do I do that? Because in religion, I've gone to atheism. Okay, but then why do I say I'm a Muslim American? Because I grew up Muslim. Every Jewish friend I have call themselves a Jewish American, and they're all atheists. Okay, and everybody goes, "Ah, boy, way to stick with your culture, even though your religious beliefs are this way. Way to proudly say that you're a Jewish American." I say I'm a Muslim American. They're like, "How dare you? You're not allowed to say that." Why am I not allowed to say it? No, I'm allowed to say it. Okay, I'm proud to have come from a Muslim background. I'm proud of it, and I'm going to fight for Muslims. But the good news is I fight for everybody. So if it was Jews who were down, or Christians who were down, or anyone who was down, I would go to hell. But right now, the Palestinians are down, and the Palestinians are suffering greatly at the hands of a terribly evil government of Israel, a terrorist government of Israel. And so we should all band together to save our brothers and sisters from this monstrosity that is not an ally of America. I mean, they have stolen everything from us. They've taken $310 billion from us. They've they attacked one of our ships, the USS Liberty. They've killed 9 Americans over the last 3 years, and our government doesn't do anything about it. And they stole our nuclear secrets. And who was that? Oh, what an amazing coincidence. That was Jeffrey Epstein's partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, her dad, Robert Maxwell.
Exactly.
Legendary Israeli spy. The minute they stole our secrets, we should have been done with them. What kind of an ally steals our nuclear secrets and creates a nuclear power? And by the way, might have shared that with our enemies. No, that's an enemy. That's not an ally.
Right. Well, I think we're all out of time then. I really appreciate it, Cenk. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Thank you guys so much. Whatever thoughts you had, please share it in the comments below. Please like, please subscribe for another episode of UnityCast. Thank you guys so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, Cenk. I appreciate it.